Hi everyone, in today's video I'm gonna give you a few tips for the new Satsui mode in Shadowland City. Now this mode is arguably one of the most difficult stages right now, maybe on par with Inverse World if you have too many debuffs etc. But the reason why this one is particularly difficult is because there are fighters limitations, and also on floor 3 what's going to happen is that there are multiple stages where you need to actually have two different teams, and that's going to be a bit of a problem for a lot of players because if I am only restricted to wind, electricity, or infernal characters, and on top of that I need to find at least 8 characters out of them to be high level enough in order for me to have two teams, that could be a struggle. So this is the whole point of my video today, is trying to give you guys a few tips and really try to help you get past this if possible. One thing I'm gonna clarify up front is that I don't know whether this factional limitation ever rotates. The few times I have been playing this game mode right now, it has always been wind, electricity, or inferno, but I don't know whether they potentially rotate it weekly or monthly, etc. So if they do change and they move on to the other three, which is flame, master, or legendary, if it happens to be you're restricted to only those three other ones, I don't recommend you attempting Satsui mode. That's because for master and legendary, most players wouldn't have too many characters in those two factions. Probably the only one people will commonly be using would be Faction Blanca out of Master and Legendary. Maybe Rose as well if you have her up. So that basically means you have to pretty much follow two teams who are using predominantly Flame Faction characters. And also Flame Faction as a whole, I find it slightly weaker because there's no proper tank up front. And this game mode is very easy for one of your characters to get knocked out because they will be so much higher level, like stats or level than you. It's very easy to be killed off. So if you don't actually have a proper tank either, it's going to be extremely difficult. So if it turns out this faction limitation do rotate and becomes only flame, master, or legendary, then I recommend you only go and do the normal Shadowland City. However, if it's like what I have on the screen right now, which is Wind, Thunder, and Inferno, then yes, you can definitely attempt the Satsui mode. And I'm going to try to teach you a few tricks that you can use to help you to do this. All right, so the first trick I'm gonna tell you, well, not trick, I guess, more tip, is that it's very important to preserve the HP of your characters in this game mode because you're not just fighting a single battle, you are actually fighting a continuous cycle of battles, one after another. And after each one of them, your HP, your combo is going to be retained. So what's going to make it important is that two things. One, if you can somehow always keep the HP of your characters high and always start off the battle with, let's say, 3 combo gauge already full, that's going to be extremely beneficial. And if you have watched my guide on Info's World, I have already mentioned there's a trick you can play in that game mode, which is that you just leave one enemy character behind, and you don't do any attack, you just only heal. And what's that going to allow you to do is that you will bring all of your character's HP back to full, and also because you're hardly doing any attacks, your combo gauge should also be almost maxed out as well. And that's basically how you can enter every single battle with kind of full HP and full combo, and that's going to be really important. You can try to do similar kind of things here as well. Now the difficulty is that you potentially is going to struggle to heal your team up when there are two teams, because theoretically out of all of the factional limitations here, the only proper healer you are going to have is going to be your Eleanor. So obviously you will have Eleanor in one of your team, but then what about your other team? How can you heal up your other team? And this is why I think Abel is going to be extremely important here, and you definitely want to spread out your Abel with your Eleanor. What Abel is able to do is Abel is able to put up a shield to protect all of your characters. So unlike Eleanor, who kind of let you take damage and so that she can then heal you back up, Abel prevent you from taking that damage in the first place with his shield. So it's very important for you to spread your Abel and also your Eleanor across two different teams so that you are able to get some kind of protection on both of them. Now, you want Abel to be able to protect your whole team, and Abel is only able to do this when he is putting up a shield on all of your teammates rather than just on Abel himself. And if you look into all of Abel's combo skill description, what you realize is that his combo one, put up a show for himself. Sorry, his combo super combo, so combo starter, put up a show for himself, but also add a shield for all of the teammates. But his combo one is really the one that's consistently able to put up loads of shield for the entire team. So that's why you preferably want to use combo one on Apple if possible. Worst case scenario, you can use combo to Apple to start off the combo chain, in which case he is still able to provide the shield for the team. But preferably combo one is where you're going to get that more consistent protection. And that's kind of why it's very important for you to have some kind of layout where your able is always able to use his combo one in order to put up that shield and protect everything. And similarly for Eleanor, this one's more obvious as well. You want to use Eleanor's combo one in order to heal the whole team. So your combo one is always going to be your defensive move. So just bear that in mind. In terms of the other ones, then obviously you want to do your DPS, etc. But yeah, so this is going to be the first tips. Spread around your Abel and your Eleanor, and always make sure to use their combo one if possible. All right, now moving on to the next tip. The next tip is going to be that you potentially want to place characters, your weaker team, in your lineup one rather than your lineup two. Or the other thing is that you want to play your mercenary in line up one rather than line up two. And I will tell you why. Actually, maybe mercenary is a bit more difficult. I'll move on to mercenary portion later. But the reason why you want to play your weaker team in your lineup one rather than lineup two is because when you actually get past your first stage, so the first half of this battle, and if you manage to clear it, all of the characters that you have used, regardless whether they have been able to survive or not, they will be locked in. Oh, actually, if they're killed off, then you can revive them and then they can be used to a different team. But ignore that for now. But assuming all of your characters stayed alive and they managed to clear the first half, then they will be locked in and you won't be able to use your second half. And assuming, let's say, your second half is actually your weaker team because you play your strong one in the first one, and you get to the stage where you realize, oh, actually my team is too weak and I'm not able to actually beat them. You are pretty much screwed there because even if you characters die and you revive them, sorry, not here, with Battle Crystal, right? You revive all of them to full HP. Your characters are still going to be locked. Whatever you have used in Team 1 is going to be locked. So, for example, if I have here, I have used my Bison, I'm going to win the battle, and my Bison now is going to be locked. If he survives the battle, he will be locked. No matter how many Battle Crystal I use, he will be locked. And I won't be able to use him for Team 2. So that's kind of why I suggest you try to use your Team 2 first, because at least if you use your weaker team in your battle and you meant to, a few characters died or they are locked in, that doesn't really impact your maximum potential for your second team. Because worst case scenario, you can still use your battle crystal and try again with your strongest character. But if all of your strongest character are already locked away in Team 1, then there's really nothing you can do there. So that's kind of why I suggest you try to use your weak Team 1 first. Your weak team in lineup one first, just so that you can free up of your strong one in case you need to use Battle Crystal to revive them and they're not actually going to be locked into the battle, etc. The exception I mentioned earlier is that if one of your character actually dies, what I found out is that when they die, they are actually going to disappear from the lineup, right? So let's say pretend my guy died, he is going to disappear from the lineup. And what that actually means is that because Gao is dead, I still won't be able to play him in Team 2 immediately. However, if what happens is that I use my Battle Crystal to revive, at that point, my Gao has already been removed from Team 1 because he has already been killed off. Then that actually makes my revived Gao able to play again in Team 2. So that potentially is a very cheeky way of how you may want to rotate your let's say your strongest damage dealer around in order so that they can be played in both teams. So you can try that strategy, but the downside is that you will have to waste a battle crystal for this to happen. So I don't really recommend that either. All right, now let's move on to tip number 3, which is gonna be your mercenary. So obviously right now with this factional limitation, you can only play a few characters. and you may find it really difficult to find a whole team. Like I personally find it pretty difficult because I don't have too many characters, which is SS, and also my biggest difficulty is actually more my DPS because I have been strictly using my Matt Ryu pretty much as my only DPS. I use Bison every now and then, but his damage output is not too high yet because his level is still a bit low, and also I don't have full set of gears for him. So that's kind of what I find is quite difficult. And this is where Mercenary is going to come in because Mercenary in this game mode can be used to play every single battle. There's no limitation like story or in the towers where you can only use them once or twice per week. Here, you can use them in every single battle. So it's very important for you to go and borrow borrow some characters from your friends who are able to fill in the gap. So that obviously concentrate only on wind or lightning or inferno here. But just borrow a few of them, and they will be really useful. And I do say borrow a few of them because there's actually a way for you to recycle your mercenary character. And basically, what I'm gonna show you here is that right now, obviously, because I have used mercenary in my lineup one, so I have Gao in my lineup one. If I try to use another mercenary character, what you see here is that okay, not this one, but I'm trying to do something. Let's say if I remove my bison, so that bison seems to be freely available. I have also borrowed the bison from my friend, so I also have a mercenary bison. If I try to put a mercenary bison, you see it pop up saying only one mercenary can be used in battle. And that's kind of why, even though you can borrow three mercenary, only one of them can be used, right? It kind of locks you and prevents you trying to find your entire two teams using purely mercenary, etc. However, there's one way around that, which is that if one of your mercenary dies, then actually what's going to happen is that your remaining mercenary can be used again because there's no longer mercenary on the field. And similarly, if you have duplicate of character, for example, you have one bison, which is really high level, and let's say you got another vanilla copy of bison because it's not quite enough for you, not enough deep for you to really rank him up or whatever, or you borrow the bison from your friend, which is what I'm going to show here, then what's going to happen is that if that bison get killed off, you will still be able to use it afterwards in the second time with the other bison that you have. So this is actually a really cheeky way of how you can potentially recycle of your mercenary and also your duplicate characters amongst your teams. So this is more for repeated battles, obviously. So in the case that you're not able to clear the team, clear the stage in a single go with your first team. So I'm going to demonstrate here. Now, for any characters that you want to recycle, so mercenary, I definitely encourage you to recycle all three mercenary slots. That will help you a lot. But in terms of the other characters, if you get duplicate and what you want to recycle, I think Bison is pretty much the only one that you can actually recycle around because Bison is already good, even a base copy because he just wouldn't die with his passive. So that's why it's really important. Well, not important, but if you do want to recycle another character around, Bison is going to be the best shot. But otherwise, recycle off your mercenary. So I'm just going to show here a demo. So this is the Bison that I borrowed from my friend. So this is a mercenary Bison. It's not my own Bison. If I just enter the battle, he is going to be killed up straight away. All right. So I'm just going to enter. I'm not even going to do anything. And this is another cheeky way for you to build up your combo gauge. You see, I started off with combo gauge 2, and now it has filled up to 3 because I'm not doing anything, right? So, okay, has been defeated. Let's try again. What can I do now? You can see I can play my mercenary again. And this is exactly what I mean. You can recycle your mercenary around here. Well, not recycle, but you can rotate around that. So don't be limited by the fact that you can only use mercenary once in your two lineup. If they happen to be killed off, then you can use them again. So if you ever encounter a really hard stage, then be brave. You can send one of your mercenary to die to gain lots of HP. Sorry, to deal lots of damage, reduce the enemy's HP, and then you can use your other mercenary or whatever to actually finish off the battle. And so you can see here, I use my bison. That was the mercenary bison, and now I can use another bison again. And this is basically how you can actually go around this to really help you to try to overcome your limitation of the fact that you can only use selective fighter. Because if I can use three mercenary and I only need 8 characters to fill in my 2 teams, that dramatically reduced, how many other good characters do I need to have personally myself. Now, the other thing I'm going to quickly show you is that if you remember, I finished off that battle with all of my combo gauge max out, so S3. And now if I enter this, hopefully what's going to show is that, let me just quickly change this around a bit. Hopefully what's this going to show is that I will be entering the battle again with my 3 combo gauge. And basically this is another trick you can do, is that, oh, you may think, I'm not able to farm up my combo gauge because the enemies are just doing too much high damage, then that's fine. Just delete your lineup, put up a single weak character, don't do any attack, let that single character take all of the damage you want to build up your combo gauge. And this way, once that character is killed off, now you're able to actually bring out your main characters and then start off the battle again with your full combo gauge. So now this is what I'm going to see. I'm not going to try to play, but you can see my combo gauge is completely maxed out, even though in my last attempt, I started off with combo gauge only at 2. So this is another really easy trick. So this also guarantees you are able to actually enter the battle with full combo gauge every single time as well. There's one last tip that I want to share with you before wrapping up, and that is that even though the characters are going to be locked into the battles for these 2 teams, the gears themselves, the equipments, are not going to be locked in. So, for example, if I look into my M Bison right now, right, I have pretty good gears, right? They're +2. They may not have the full factional bonus, etc., but I need to say +2, and they're all 5-star. Well, most of them are 5-star. Whereas if you look at my team 2, what happens is you have your E Honda, and I have rubbish gears on them because I didn't bother too much on a second or third set of power gear. And this is potentially going to be a problem a lot of the times for most people because you haven't really needed to have multiple characters, multiple teams, and therefore your gears are not quite there. And so what you can do here is simply the fact that after you pass through your first stage, don't go into battle straight away, just back out. There's going to be the potential for you to kind of go in and go out, etc. And what you can simply do is just change your gears around so that you can equip off your strongest gear from your team 1, just take them down. The characters are locked, you're not going to be able to use them anyway, but all of the gears you can still rotate around and just put them on your team 2. And this is going to be a really straightforward way of how you can then, even if you only have 4 set of, let's say, strong equipments, you are still able to use that on both of your teams. And that's a very easy way for you to get a bit of a power boost there as well. Alright, so that's going to be all of my tips for the Satsui mode in Shadowland City. I'm just going to do some brief recap. So number 1 is that you want to rotate your Abu and your Eleanor into 2 different teams. So you are always able to use their combo 1 to heal or protect your team. The second thing is that you want to always try to start off with your weaker team first so that they are not able to lock away off your strongest character even if you use your battle crystal. Tip number 3, try to use mercenaries to fill in your gaps, etc. What you can do with the mercenary is that you can borrow all 3 of them. If one of them dies, you are still able to use the next mercenary in the next battle. So don't worry too much about that. Just make sure you have 3 really strong mercenary so that you can use all 3 of them if needed. Tip number 4 is that before the start of battle, if your combo gauge is not full, just send a single level 1 character out there. Don't do any attacks, just literally use him to farm up your combo gauge back up to full so that you are able to then start off the battle with your full first team with your full combo gauge again. So that's what you can do. And finally, the last tip is that even though the characters are locked in between your 2 lineups, what you can do is that you can rotate all of the equipment or all of the gears around so that you are still able to get the maximum amount of, let's say, stats available for your characters in your second battle.